This token can unlock a fantasy you'll never forget. With this token, you can live a dream and be what you want to be. With the drop of this token, you can travel the universe, race the Grand Prix. A cup of tokens can provide you with hours of fun and excitement. Live out your fantasies.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the arcade here on Player One Start. You know, out of the previous games that we've looked at in this series, this is the first one that is actually a sequel to one we've already covered before. Centipede was a huge hit in the arcades and instantly began gobbling up quarters from players all across the world. It wasn't a foregone conclusion, but it seemed inevitable that there would be a sequel to this game, and it came in the form of Millipede, which we're going to look at in this episode. Millipede is an iconic game that was developed and created by Atari in 1982. It is the sequel to the immensely popular game Centipede and builds upon its gameplay mechanics and success of its predecessor. The development of Millipede involved a team of talented designers and programmers led by Ed Logg, who was also one of the key contributors to Centipede. The concept behind this game was to expand the original Centipede gameplay while introducing new features and challenging. In the game, players control a shooter at the bottom of the screen, tasked with defending themselves against a variety of insects and creatures descending from the top. The objective is to destroy and shoot the millipede as it navigates through a field of mushrooms while avoiding other dangerous creatures such as spiders, bees, and beetles. A decision in development was also made to change the character into an archer rather than playing as the Bug Blaster yourself. The main chips in the game are the 6502 microprocessor and two Atari Poké sound chips for producing the sound effects in the game. The game's development cycle was shortened due to having some of the elements already in place from Centipede, allowing the arcade game to be released on November 12, 1982 in North America. When Millipede was initially released, it wasn't a huge hit. And although it wasn't as successful as the original, it did make changes to the gameplay that would make it stand out against the original. In this game, you no longer take control of a Bug Blaster, but instead you take control of an elf called the Archer. Just like in Centipede before it, your goal is to destroy a millipede that advances down from the top of the screen. The millipede acts just about the same as the Centipede does, however some of the differences are, the millipede moves faster and its head is harder to hit. Earwigs replace the scorpions, bees replace fleas, and a new enemy, inchworms, move horizontally across the screen and slow all enemies for a short period of time when hit. Ladybugs can crawl around the player for a while, then climb up and leave the screen, turning any mushrooms they touch into indestructible flowers. When hit, all mushrooms scroll down one row. Dragonflies will drop mushrooms while zigzagging down, and mosquitoes will bounce off the sides of the screen as they descend diagonally, and when hit, all mushrooms on the screen will scroll up one row. Again, when the player loses a life, all of the screen is reset to normal, including the flowers being turned back into mushrooms. And overall, while I find this game a unique variant of the Centipede formula, it's not really something I find myself going back to as often. I know it's just a matter of personal preference that I can't really describe, but I prefer Centipede over Millipede. Just like with Centipede, this did get an Atari 2600 remake, and although there's some more detail on the screen, the player character and mushrooms are still blocks and lines, but they also add in things to represent the additions to Millipede. The game would also get a port to the Atari 400 8-bit computer system, and as expected, the graphics are more in line with the arcade counterpart, and I think this one would provide a better gaming experience graphically, but with the same limitations of the Atari 2600 and the fact that you can't use a trackball. You would have gotten that option had they decided to release it for the 5200, but sadly that version was cancelled. I have to date not seen an official version released, but the homebrew community has seemed to have found the port and have made their own carts. And even though Centipede skipped the Nintendo Entertainment System, Millipede would get a port on the Nintendo Entertainment System, and this game I think got a weekend rental out of me back in the day, but I didn't remember being very impressed with it, and to date I am still not that impressed with it because, again, playing with the NES pad is not as fun to me as playing with the trackball. Graphics and sound effects wise, the NES actually does a pretty good job with it, but in trying to recreate an accurate playfield, as televisions were much wider than the vertical screens used in the arcades, they decided to scrunch the screen down a little bit, creating a lot of unnecessary blank space in my opinion, but overall the game plays admirably for the system. Millipede was listed as the 4th highest grossing arcade game of 1983, below Ms. Pac-Man, Pole Position, and Dragon's Lair. And although Millipede was also ported to other systems beyond the 1980s, Centipede really took center stage. Or it was almost always released with Centipede. The game was included in arcade classics for the Sega Genesis and Game Gear, and a similar Master System compilation titled Arcade Smash Hits. It also made an appearance in the Microsoft 3.1 version of Microsoft Arcade in 1993, and it also got published in the Arcade Greatest Hits, the Atari Collection 1 for the Saturn, Super Nintendo Entertainment System, and the PlayStation. In 1998, Centipede got a full 3D remake that would be published by Hasbro Interactive under the Atari Interactive brand name.
By their master. The legend also has it that every 100 years, we are wrong.
Gameplay remains similar to the original though, as you're trying to eliminate the centipedes that wind down the playfield. You have to avoid obstacles such as spiders, fleas, and scorpions, and there's a population of mushrooms that grow between the player and each centipede. Added onto this game, the player is tasked with rescuing villagers and bystanders and preventing damage to key structures, although if you ignore these tasks, it does not prevent you from being able to complete the round. This game is played in 2 different types of modes, arcade and adventure, with adventure being a departure from the original version. In the adventure campaign, you complete a series of levels linked by a storyline. And although this version of the game has received more of a mixed reception than the original, one review I think said it best when they say, as an arcade conversion, it has it all. Great graphics, the same addictive gameplay as the original, and enough new enhancements to justify the effort. And I'd say it's a solid enough title, but I'm playing the Dreamcast version. The original version also appeared in the Atari Anniversary Collection, seen here on the Dreamcast, and as well again on the PlayStation 1. The game made a couple of appearances on the Xbox and PlayStation 2. One version's pretty straightforward, as it's part of the Atari Anthology that was released in 2004, but there's also a version in Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines that can be unlocked once the game is beaten. Xbox Live Arcade and PlayStation Portable's Atari Arcade Classics version was bundled with the sequel Millipede, and included an evolution mode that featured high-definition graphics and special effects like motion blur, trails, and particle-based explosions. The PSP version does have you rotate the screen so that you can actually get full use of a vertical playfield that would have been used in the arcade version. However, I am going to note that in editing I rotated this footage to be the right orientation for you, but when I hooked it up to my TV, it was rotated in the 16:9 aspect ratio. Again, in handheld mode, that isn't going to make a difference, but if you hook it up to a TV, it's not going to automatically rotate for you. In the end though, the experience is the same. This is Millipede, but with a visual and audio upgrade, and it's not bad. I definitely like playing it on my PSP, but if you prefer the classic mode, you can switch back to the old arcade-style graphics, but playing it on the PSP, I preferred the updated graphics. Glue Mobile released a licensed cellular phone version of Centipede that includes the original game, as well as updated gameplay, skins, and modes, but in 2008, it was also released for the iPhone and iPod Touch. The game has also made appearances on the Evercade and multiple clone consoles of the Atari 2600. A strange sequel/remake to this game may be Centipede Infestation that was released for the 3DS and the Nintendo Wii.
Centipede Infestation.
The game is played from a top-down perspective, and gameplay is a mix between run and gun and tower defense. The player's goal is to fight off giant bugs while seeking to use special seeds to bring plant life back to the world. Players control a character named Max, as well as a secondary character named Maisie, who is often in need of rescue. The game has co-op gameplay and a wide variety of weapons and stages. The game does support 2 control schemes, with the Wii Remote and the Nunchuck, or the classic controller, which some people may prefer using the Wii Remote's infrared pointer to determine which way you're firing your weapon, but from my experience, games like this are best played with the classic controller.
Pretty good at this.
And as of the making of this video, the most modern edition is Centipede Recharged, which was released in 2021 by Atari and Other Ocean Interactive. This game plays homage to the original while adding new features and updated visuals yet again. Overall, Centipede and its sequel Millipede have both had a profound impact on the video game industry, with Centipede leaving a lasting legacy as one of the most influential and successful arcade games of all time. Today, Centipede remains an iconic and beloved classic, showcasing the enduring impact of its innovative gameplay and lasting influence on the gaming industry as a whole. If you like this video and you'd like to help out with future projects on this channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. A special thanks to those Patreons you see on screen. Also, if you like what you see, please remember to leave a like and click that subscribe button on your way out. As always, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.